And so anyway, we've been friends forever. Her husband was my best man at my wedding, and you know, all of us we talk all the time about comics, and in particular, well, I mean, the future of comics, and where this is all going, and you know, we're in a really interesting time right now, where this is a bit of an exaggeration, but anybody can can gather an audience for just about anything, and good or bad, ridiculous or serious, and so we had all these conversations. We were watching her comic kind of take off. I was starting my own, and we just went, you know what? We need to just start recording these discussions. And so then it's sort of grown into this whole sort of visual storytelling. You know, website, it's a resource. I mean, it really is a resource. It's tutorials, and interviews, back.
So, you know, the digital, everybody says, well, digital is there. Anybody can publish, anybody can put a story out, anybody can, you know, you can find an audience. From what I understand from talking to people and having interest in it myself and talking to people who are struggling like that, I think one of the big things I hear about is how, well, okay, all these people are out there, but it's a massively crowded environment. How do you connect with them? How do you find your audience? How do you do these things? Because I think you can put out the most amazing product in the world on a webcomic, unless people know it's there, it'll struggle.
Right. This is great. And really, this is the question, right? I mean, this is the challenge. And I think it's really multi-layered, and so there's a million different things to talk about in regard to this. But one thing, just if anybody didn't hear, he's just asking about basically how do you build an audience when there's so much stuff happening and so much. I mean, this is the attention economy, right? It's not about money as much as it is about attention. It's not about, you know, media and marketing as much as it is just about attention. And so the primary thing, the primary goal is to, and I have no way to say this without sounding like a butthead, so I'm just going to take a leap of faith here and trust that you'll believe that I'm not a butthead. Only sometimes. Ask my wife. You know, I try to be have as little butthead content as possible, but let's just start with it. You know, there's one of the main manifestations of that question is, how do I get more readers for my webcomic? I mean, that is probably, there's lots of variations on it, but that's one of the core questions. And to me, the primary goal is to make something that people will on their own share, will on their own talk about, something that's so exciting, that's so inventive, and so compelling that people just have that wow reaction, that emotional reaction. And I mean, we've all had that. We've all seen something, oh, look at this cute goat dancing on the back of a pig, or, you know, whatever. It's like the cutest YouTube video I've ever seen, and, you know, you gotta check this out. You know, you immediately think of the 4 friends, you know, that would love this. And so what I'm saying is that we should all make comics about cute goats dancing on the backs of sleeping pigs. The end. No, but the point being, something that is so, and actually there's actually a kind of I think a sub-point there that actually is important, is that with comics, we want to engage an audience for the long term. We don't want to just go for the short, viral, you know, the short-term gain. And so that kind of leads me to the next part, which is we have to be, from the very beginning, we have to be in it for the long haul. And this is something that I love. I mean, this is true in the indie comics community, but I see just generally in my experience, I see a greater, more, just a greater sense of commitment and a greater kind of stubbornness, which I love in the webcomics community. And that is like, I'm making this thing, man. I'm making it and I'm putting it up there every Friday, new page, you know, whatever the case is, I'm making this. And, you know, I don't meet many webcomics artists who wouldn't want to option the rights to their story and make a movie or whatever. I don't meet many webcomics that are like, I would never do that. But they're not waiting for that. They're not doing it for that. They're in it for the long haul. They're in it because they have a story in their heart that they want to tell. So I think you have to commit to make something as good as you possibly can and to continue to make that better and to do anything you can to self-educate in order to make that better, so to make the best product possible, so that people are so impressed by it that you don't even have to ask them to retweet it or whatever. It just will happen. Then you have to be in it for the long haul. You have to be willing to go, year after year and be there consistently. Sure. Sure, no problem. Will you just come up here and let me know? Thank you so much. I think we're having a good time now, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great time.
What's that?
I said, feel free if you want to do it.
Sure. We'll do whatever questions people have, we'll do that, and we'll have a dance party. Thank you. So you have to be in it for the long haul. Lastly, relationships. This is the thing. It's like, I think that there's a difference now and again, this is especially true for webcomics, but it's true for all it's true, you make a short film on Kickstarter or whatever, I mean, it's true for all of it, but it's especially true for webcomics, that we like things because we like it, we like the story, we like the comic, but we also like things because we like the person that makes it. And it's like this hybrid, it's both, and you kind of have to have both. And so I think, being here is huge. It's one person at a time, it's one relationship at a time, and just patiently cultivating a relationship with your audience, give them what they want. That's one of the great things. It's like we're updating a page a week or whatever, then, give them what they want. They're the ones supporting you. I get a lot of questions, not so much from comics creators, but from people who want to be concept artists or character designers in the animation industry. And they write me, and this question all the time. And they say, Chris, how do I get more followers? And I'm like, man, this is the wrong focus. Focus on the 10 followers you do have, and amplify, cultivate, nourish those relationships. Honor the relationships that you do have, and then that will slowly grow and expand. And the great part about that is it's not just this grab for followers, just anyone that will pay attention. It actually builds a loyal, communal kind of fan base, around what you're trying to do, which is awesome. It just creates this great shared experience. It's like we're all connected online, so why don't let's do that the right way. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
This guy in the back, and we'll hop up to you.
So when I think about digital, I think of two things, and one is convenience, and the other is capability.
Yeah.
And so it can be convenience, and that creates many possibilities of what digital comics could be. It could be everything from essentially a PDF or JPEG of a page of a comic to something that's created in either Flash or HTML5. It takes you through panel by panel to a motion comic, which skirts the line of being animation. I'm wondering, do you address each of those as an individual medium, or do you address them all together as a web comic? Because it seems to me they're three very different things,
right? And
three very different approaches to creating.
Man, you guys are so good. So good. What do you think? What is your opinion on it?
I think that you should look at them as different mediums because there's a different level of work. A traditional comic book artist, pre-digital, can very easily make the jump to creating a JPEG or PDF that goes online, and then I, as a reader, would just, in whatever reader form I have, just read it as it is. Moving into Flash and HTML, now you're talking about knowing coding and programming, and you're also thinking about designing layouts, and you're not going to, you can't look at the whole thing at once. And then again, when you get into motion comics, that's practical animation. So it seems to me they ought to be different mediums. And I'm wondering if it hinders those three mediums to lump them all together.
I could not agree more, and I've never said it as clearly or succinctly as you just said it. I think that's exactly right. And I think that the same people that like motion comics are not going to be the same people that want to go download a PDF that's just, nothing moves and it's just it's just a comic that I read on my iPad, right? Those are two completely different entertainment experiences. And so they're not going to be, now there might be some overlap in the audience, but they're not the same thing. And so I think we have to think of it differently. I think one really great place to start is to think of it from a standpoint of what do we, is that coming from inside here?
Yeah.
Mhm.
From your slideshow.
This video, slideshow.
Feels very epic. You know what I'm saying? It's like, go make your comments, go make them. You'll never take our comments. That's hilarious. Anyway, yeah. So I think that we have to start with what we can actually make. I think that's one of the first things. Somebody remind me to talk about what I interviewed Doug Tenaple last night for his panel, and he had a great quote from Ethan Nicole, created at Scott, and remind me to share that with you. It hasn't quite fit in, but now that I'm starting to go down this track, I don't want to forget that because you're going to love it. It's a fantastic, fantastic quote. But anyway, can you see that there's like a master volume thing we can try and, or yeah, pause button would be great. Just mildly distracting. Oh, amazing. That was amazing. You did a very good job. Thank you. There was like almost no like guessing. You were like, here's how it works. Pause that thing. Okay, so yeah. So you have to start with what you can actually make. And my friend Lora, actually, this is what I'm about to say is all of her kind of stuff. I can't really take credit for this. But something she talks about is, it's the question of, what is the dream project and what is the, kind of the minimum viable version of that dream project, okay? So all of us would get these great ideas for these webcomics, and it's this huge sprawling epic. It's like a Tolkien-esque, there's 100 characters and 47 different worlds and all this, armor to design, and just like it just goes, the creativity just gets out of control, right, really easily. And so we go, all right, that's great. I mean, we don't want to say no to that. We don't want to shut that down, but we also want to have something done. There's something about going through the process of making, whether it's an app or a PDF or just a Comics Press, WordPress install version of a webcomic. There's something about especially with creative people, the perception of what that's going to entail, what that's going to cost us mentally, emotionally, even financially. Even though it's usually very low cost. And there's a gap between that and what it actually feels like when you're in it. Like what it's actually like to try and update a new page every single week. I mean, that is a relentless, relentless pace. And so there's all kinds of other ways to work around that. We've recorded, several podcast episodes about this, and I'll spare you the nitty-gritty. But I think that's by and large the main, to really pinpoint and really bring it home, the thing for us to consider as creatives is what is the thing that we can actually make now, or what's the thing we can actually make within the next 3 months. A very short-term project. And then, after we have a sensory understanding, a gut level, an emotional understanding of what that feels like to actually do that, then we have a point of reference. And then we go, okay, so, the motion comic nearly killed me, so maybe plus I got my friend's getting married, and whatever, I got that other huge freelance gig coming down, so maybe I'll just back up and, do something smaller this time. Or, hey, everything's wide open, I just inherited $1 million, and I'm going to be sitting pretty for the next 10 years of my life. It's time to make that Tolkien. All right, I'm in prison. and all this time on my hands. You know, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like your circumstances, you can kind of evaluate, but you have to have that emotional understanding. Am I even making sense? I want to, okay.
No, that makes sense.
Just, if I'm not, just like, you know, make an obscene gesture or something. You had a question.
Yeah, in terms of new kind of new digital media that's coming out, I know that there's more and more comics companies are trying to get on the app bandwagon, trying to get how to be able to break into the people that are using mobile phones to be able to view motion comics or view comics in general. One particular app that's started up this year has been Narrate. Have you seen that?
No.
NARR 8 number 8.
It's NARR the number 8, so Narrate.
Right.
Okay. It's an app.
Right, and something that they're recently doing is trying to be able to give, focus on giving indie comic artists a kind of an avenue to be able to get their products out there. And the way they generate viewership is almost like a point system, where if you want to be able to view the most recent issues, you pay for the issue, or you just keep reading back and reading all these new issues from these new artists.
Cool.
And it's actually starting to take off really fast because it generates creates reader participation, so that they want to be able to explore these new stories or these new areas. Some of the things they're doing right now, they're doing kind of 3 different areas. They're working on motion comics, which is kind of their bread and butter. Then they have the regular kind of still comics, and then they also are doing just regular just illustrated books.
Yeah, sure.
And be able to do that. And so I was just wondering if you had any insight in terms of the direction that apps are going.
Well, I mean, it's all very exciting. I think that one thing, I mean, that sounds awesome. And you said something that's really key, I think, and that is that, you know, is it taking off, right? Because there have been a lot of things. I mean, I was really excited about this, what was it, Ink Outbreak? You know, and it's basically a website where it just takes your webcomic site and just kind of puts a banner over top of it. So basically kind of creates a portal, but it's also like in that banner, it has a way to kind of click through, you know, related comics. And so Ink Outbreak is basically just like a way to organize webcomics, but without bringing, it's not like Drunk Duck where, you know, you have to go and actually upload your pages to that site and that kind of thing. No, it's still your website, and it just pulls it into the Ink Outbreak kind of reader. And I was like, that's a great idea, but it doesn't seem to have, not enough people seem to have gotten on board. So constant change is the new normal right now. You know, so this is the thing as storytellers we have to be used to. We have to get comfortable with trying this stuff. If you see something that you're excited about, that you're like, oh wow, it looks like maybe, give it a try. And like what you know, as long as you kind of look into the legality of it all, you know, because anybody can put up anything and try and steal. You know, it's like you have to be careful. But if it all seems kind of honest, then, you know, go for it, try it. As long as you don't get spread too thin. That's the thing, you can get to a point where you're trying everything and then you're not making a comic. And I think that's the main challenge in this kind of environment of constant change, is to continue to remember that at the end of the day, human beings need stories. We need good stories. And we will always respond to those. I mean, we always have and we always will. You know, it's actually vital to our survival. And I think that's the thing to keep in mind. There's actually a really great book on that note that I might recommend. It's called The Golden Theme, and it's by my friend Brian McDonald. He's a story consultant for Pixar and Disney and Lucasfilm. He's an amazing dude. There's another great book called Invisible Ink, which is about storytelling in general. But The Golden, and it's fantastic. Now available on audiobook, actually. But The Golden Theme is now about our need for stories, like how truly vital they are to us as human beings. It's awesome. It's highly recommended. Anyway, but that's the thing, and that's really encouraging for us. You know, it's like really when the clutter feels overwhelming, when the fight is just exhausting and everything, you can go, you know what? I'm making a difference in humanity if I really try and tell an important, humane story with, you know, that's gonna, you know, whatever the purpose is, to communicate to the people who are reading that they're not alone. You know, ultimately, in one way or another, that's kind of our job, right? Is to remind everyone that we're not alone. And if we're doing that, then apps or interesting web readers, aggregators, those kinds of things really are secondary. That said, I feel like nobody has come up with the thing that makes it easy for comic creators to make an ad. It's like even Comics Press is kind of our best webcomics thing right now, or at least the most widely accepted, and it's kind of hard to use, So it's like, I can't help but wonder if maybe we should focus on making one thing that really works well, at least for those of you who are interested in the development side of things, or those of you artists who know people who are developing these tools, it's like instead of just, trying 1,000 different things, can we just make one really solid, God bless the Comixology people, God bless them. But it's like, and the actual reading experience is cool, but the buying experience drives me insane. And it's so hard, like you go and you type in Bone, and it's like, you get all the collected editions from like the last 10 years or whatever, and you have to kind of like Frankenstein together the story. It's like, I want one button, a Bone button, and I press that button, and for, whatever, $30, and I just get everything, or I subscribe for $4 a month, I get, an issue or 10 issues or what, and it just pops up, and there's nothing to it. I don't have to go in and find out, okay, this is a digital scan of something that was printed in 1989, and it's insane. So that's what I mean. It's like so much of it, there's just a lot of baggage and clutter. It's like, let's make the thing that really just works.
Yeah, that's something that Narrate is really working to try to be able to do.
That's great.
They're actually creating kind of a secondary like PC app that'll make it easier for comic artists to be able to upload their own work on there into their
That's
format.
what I'm saying.
And also providing an area where the app, it works. It's a really great user experience. But I think that just the biggest thing you have to overcome is making sure you have quality work that catches people's eye. And that's really what you as an artist, you want to be able to do. One of the things that I was talking to a few of my professional comic book artist friends that have booths up in Artist Alley, is we've been talking about for the past few months about what is the future of comics.
Yeah.
And that often a lot of comic book artists, like even self-publishers, are like, man, like the books aren't selling as well as they used to, and they feel like it's a dying medium. And it's really not. But I think it's just changing.
Yeah.
And we were also talking about how that the culture, in terms of the viewer culture, has changed a lot. In terms of that digital age is actually opening up a new avenue for people to be able to have even using the consumer disposable mentality of being able to view a comic and move on to the next one.
It's risk-free.
It's risk-free. And that apps and motion comics and different avenues to be able to put on your phone is definitely really paving the way for that.
Yeah, you're right on. My wife was driving me here this morning, and we were talking about how whenever we're in Denver, we never run into as many IT people. We live in Los Angeles right now, and so it's crazy how many IT people you run into out here, for obvious reasons. And so she was kind of commenting on that, and I was thinking, if there's anywhere that this is going to happen, that we're going to figure that out, that we're going to figure out how to do a really great user interface that is, on the front end, it's great for the reader, and on the back end, it's great for the artists, like you were saying, to upload their own content, to assemble their own comics, whether it's, they move or not. But where it's like Apple level of simplicity, it's going to be here. This is such a great, you just look around, it's like this, the comics culture has been, rising up for years, since I was here in 2001 through 3, and now we've got the culmination of it happening right here, and we have all these techie guys and girls, out here to help us make the thing that works. So there's a challenge, those of you that live here. What's stopping you from calling up your buddies in IT and just go, hey, can we try and maybe make something better than the things that suck? I wonder if we could do that.
What is it in those programs that you dislike, and what is it that you think they should have in order to make them better?
this is a bit of an oversimplification, but too many clicks. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to. Just too many things to click on. I mean, Comics Press, that's one of the biggest, I mean, widely accepted frustrations. For those who don't know, Comics Press is a WordPress plugin. So most webcomics are, there's another one just called webcomics that a lot of people use. And as I understand, though it's not as widely accepted, it's actually a little bit easier to use. Does anybody use that one? Use just the plain old webcomics plugin? Yeah, it's not as well known. Neither of the plugins have been updated in a while, so it's like every time WordPress is updated, it gets even harder and harder to use because there's more incompatibilities. But with Comics Press, you know, it's just there's like you have to like upload your page here and then go over here to edit the post, and you know, there's all these different ways to lay the comic out, and it's like, man, it just, this is the thing. A lot of IT people love putting options on stuff. They love adding options. And it's like, we're artists. We need you to make it like stupidly easy for us, please. Just like not so many options. So that's a big part of it. And I think as a general principle, it really is that simple. Just less things to click. You know, can I have an icon that looks like a comic page, and I press that, and it opens up my photos, and then I click the page I want to upload, and it's over. You know, there it is. It's live. My readers are reading it. Can we make it that simple? You know. I think it's possible. Any other questions? Yes, let's go in the back.
You kind of touched on it before, but just this mass amount of information
that's
out there, and it's hard to know where to start, just weeding through it all.
Yeah.
And do you have any tricks of the trade? Where to start? Like blogs you follow, people you listen to?
My friends. I mean, that's really what it comes down to is, I mean, through the podcast, I've had this, I mean, it's just an amazingly rewarding experience, you know, being able to connect with all these creators who are just super passionate. And so I just catch their, you know, their enthusiasm. I just, you know, I absorb that in some way, you know. And so that's what I get excited about, is what they're doing. And then you know, my heroes or whatever, you know, my creative heroes, like, you know, somebody said Doug Naples doing a webcomic. Well, actually, it was Doug told me he was doing a webcomic. You know, I got all excited. I'm like, oh, this is great, finally. So as more of the kind of seasoned pros start to step into that, I get excited about that to see what they'll do. Yeah, I mean, you know, it is tricky, and I feel like there is a definite, a need to, and it's clear that need still exists because so many different things keep showing up. There's nothing that is kind of like just corporately caught on, you know, it's like, oh, that's the way you read webcomics. Or even really that's what a webcomic is, you know. And it's funny, Lora and I talk about this as a bit of a tangent, but we talk about this all the time, which is, should we even use the term webcomics? Because the entire world is becoming so connected that the concept of the web is going away, like it's just life, right? It's just, I mean, there's no, you know, I mean, we take it for granted that something's online now. As I've been promoting my school all weekend at my booth on table I-10, if you want to come in and say hi. People are like, oh, so is it online? As a matter of fact, yes. You know, so the fact that we're already just making that leap, just normal people just making that leap. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think that for us to just think of it purely as webcomics and to think of it in like, okay, well, basically a webcomic is, you know, a comic page hosted on WordPress. It's like, it's just not, in the long term, it's not going to be that way for very long. And I think we have to keep thinking about what is the most immersive way to deliver the story.